everyone on the dev team, we're very excited to let more players into Smite 2. The closed testing with ambassadors and streamers and pros has been really fun, and with employees has been really fun. We hear a lot of positive feedback every test, and then also a long to-do list. We're trying to remake over 10 years, 3, 4 were virtually entirely set up by me with no programming assistance. That was very different than what we do in Smite 1, and those abilities all had significant changes over time because of the ability to prototype, test, and adjust all in the design team.
Do we do more texture maps now to give better resolution and stuff like that? So higher polygon counts, things of that nature. The biggest thing's been probably cloth simulation and learning the ins and outs.
She has simulated cloth physics on her movement. In Smite 1, we had to hand key animate all cloth to make it look as much like it was flowing in the wind and stuff like that. But Hecate actually has a big cloth veil, and that actually moves and responds to the physics and the world around her.
There's some clear out-of-the-box gains. We get to see cloth simulation live in the fly. We can update something in the editor and see it while we're playing in editor, see it update immediately. The workflow paths are much quicker and smoother.
Kind of has a twist on the interact feature. Hecate has 2 special case interacts just for her, that in certain situations she can now interact. So her passive is actually kind of an active in this way. The other one is her ability 2. She puts down a magic orb. Every single ability that's activated from an enemy god or ally god powers it up, and then she refires it to do damage based on how much fighting was going on in the area.
Another one of Hecate's abilities, we're rendering a flow map over everything, which is this.
And not only can we put more stuff in, but we can also make it run better, smoother for all the players so they can really enjoy it. We definitely want the environment to have an impact in some of the gameplay, and it should make it a pretty dynamic experience.
So there's a lot of different ways you can interact with the map. We have a new interaction system where you press a button and you either pick something up or you channel onto it and something happens. So we have jungle buffs from Smite 1, but now instead of walking over to pick them up, you have to press the interact key. The nice thing about this is that new players oftentimes pick up a buff accidentally. There's a lot of new jungle buffs in the map. We reworked all of them to be different for Smite 2. And in addition to them all being new, the jungle camps now level up when you kill them. So when they level up, the buffs that they give out are better. And we have a little help tip in the game to show you what they give. It gives you a big team boost in power and protections. So we wanted to keep that. So we just reworked his kit to be fresh and exciting for Smite 2. We also like that the Gold Fury has some end game stuff that scales really well as the match progresses. So we wanted to add a little bit of that for the Fire Giant. So each time he dies, his buff gets stronger. As the match progresses and as more Fire Giant kills happen, the buff is progressively really important in the early and mid game. We wanted to add something there so that she's still worth taking in the end game. Now, when you defeat her, she gives you permanent team effects, and she has 3 of them. Once you get all 3, the Gold Fury then transforms into the Ancient Fury, and this Ancient Fury will then start turning off all the towers and Phoenixes.
It's a whole different balance string we have. We have a lot of characters like Bacchus that now when he chugs, he actually gets both types. His belly flop is a really powerful physical attack. The rest of his abilities are more int focused. And because of that difference, we can actually amplify strengths based off what you build. So it's a really cool tool.
And make clutch rotations through portals connecting outer lanes. Battle against the Fire Giant, fully equipped with new abilities and new tactical approaches. Like the back door you can open to sneak in for a steal. Earn game-changing buffs as you defeat the Gold Fury, culminating in the Ancient Fury, a new game-ending objective. Gain every advantage through mastering new lane and jungle mechanics.
So another example of a character that changes based off strength and int is Korra. Right now in Smite, he's a hunter, so all of his abilities scale off physical strength or physical power. But now we're going to make him so that he's more of this kind of hybrid hunter that can build strength or int. So if you go pure strength on Korra, not much changes. He still has his in-hands that hit really hard. A lot of his things still scale off strength.
Weapon movements leave trails, making attacks more visible. Upper and lower body animations are more in sync, positioning your character within the action. Specific animations and effects have been retuned to add more impact than before. CC status and immunity are now clearly communicated on nameplates, so it's easier to read the flow of combat. And work has been done on the UI and user experience to make sure you truly feel when you're hitting your enemies.
And the initial projectile is very strength focused, but the bramble field that appears that feels more magical, that is something that scales up int. So if you want to do more wave clear, you want to go more int focused. If you want to do more single target damage with your bramble blast, that's going to be more strength focused. So that's an example of a character that you can build either way or pull fully hybrid. But if you want to amplify specific parts, if you want your ult to hit really hard, you actually want to go int focus because it really, really amplifies the damage of the ultimate. It also means that the summer damage, the one that does the extra on-hit damage, you'll actually take whichever of your stat is highest and use that and change the damage profile from physical. There's a lot of different active effects that you can bring to your team, such as there's a mushroom that you can place on the ground that heals your whole team. There's an item that knocks people away. And there's even one that actually stasises the whole team, friendly and enemy, that actually can just really shift a team fight. So these are really, really powerful
The depth of
effects.
strategy and tactics that you can only find in a 3-lane MOBA. Competition is core to our DNA. And rest assured that Smite 2 is a competitive game that rewards your time and your skill. But unlike those other MOBAs, Smite 2 has amazing third-person combat. Whether you're coming from MOBAs, shooters,
Ability effects are all new, taking full advantage of Niagara. Watch how Anher's Pillar dissolves into sand, how Chalk's Rain wets the ground, and how Ymir's Wall freezes the nearby environment.
One ability and it's just one piece of code and it's relatively huge. Abilities are split into a whole bunch of individual.
So in some cases, characters are going to be pretty straightforward. Loki is mostly still a strength-based character. Anher is still a strength-based character. But when we look at his abilities and he has a lot of physical-based attacks, we can do a lot of different strength and int scaling there. We can do that to make it so that you have a more in-hand focused build with strength, a more ability-focused build with your intelligence scaling, or we can also augment differently that you didn't want to scale before, because if it scaled off of your power, your physical power, it would just get stronger. So if you want to go a more passive route, or if you want to go a more stat-stick route, you want to focus on just making your character as strong as possible, you can still go those item builds. The choice is yours there. And that lets We're not expecting everyone to have super high APM and execute a whole bunch of keybinds to be successful in Smite 2, but there are extra tools available for you if you want building the kind of intuitive way that you might expect to. You want strength, you start building strength, and at the end of that, you'll have an item that actually does what it has a whole bunch of active effects that can really round out weaknesses in their team. We want to make sure that that's something that players can easily grab onto.
Don't worry, just build a bow, and every single item with attack speed can be built out of that bow. And you'll have more creative builds than ever before. Gods are no longer just magical or physical. Each god will now have 2 different sources of power, strength and intelligence. Different abilities within each god's kit will scale differently, and all gods will be able to build all items. Face Punch Ymir with crit is back. Hunters that used to do it all like Kernanos now will need to build int in order to increase damage on certain abilities, like his polymorph. And new hybrid utility.
Rather than having the mace tree that builds into 4 mace items, you now have an axe. And this axe is the core component for all strength items that exist in the game. And so when you hit that button, you'll see a whole bunch of builds into, and that's how you determine what stats you want to go. So if you aren't sure exactly what you want in Smite 2, you can build an axe knowing that you want strength, and then maybe you want to get some attack speed. So you build a bow to give you some attack speed. Well, now you can see that you have those 2 items in your inventory, you can see what they build into, and that'll naturally kind of guide you to the item that is all your characters can build both. There's no item restriction, so there's no, you're only building physical power items or only magic power items. You can build all strength and intelligence items. There's a few other minor changes, like lifesteal is now a global stat that affects everything, as well as CDR is now CDR again, but it's not a percentage, it actually modifies your cooldown exponentially as it gets higher. But also, if that's not what you want to go for, want to give that customization so you can choose that own level of kind of active choice. Leverage that. So Chalk is a great example of a character who, if you want to get in there, swing your axe and do a whole bunch of damage, largely strength is going to play to your playstyle, and you could probably build a strength